Hey, what is going on, everyone? Dan Wanis here with the Daily Fantasy Press, joining you this week to break down the Dean and Deluca Invitational. We are headed back to Texas this week at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. This course is a par 70, comes in at 7,209 yards. So it's actually a very similar course by numbers and being a par 70 again to what we had at the Byron Nelson last week. There's limited par 5s, which reduces birdie opportunities on the par 5s. So some of the stats we're going to be keying in this week. First, strokes gained tee to green, our favorite stat to use week to week. Second, par 4 scoring because of the limited birdie opportunities on the par 5s. Par 3 efficiency is also going to be important this week. Strokes gained approach, greens and regulation, and also birdie or better percentage. Now, taking an early look at weather, winds look to be gusting near 30 miles an hour Thursday and Friday. We will have to monitor this, but if that's the case, in the back of your head, you really have to keep in mind the ball strikers, because those are the guys that aren't as fazed by the wind and seem to be less affected by it. So the field this week is also, it's got 126 players, and you're going to have a greater percentage of the field making the cut. So that gives yourself the opportunity to dip down and take some scrubs, load up on the stars up top, just because you're going to have more guys coming through and making the cut than you typically do at PGA Tour events. So another thing to keep in mind, and one more note, FanDuel has announced today on Monday they will not be hosting contests for Dean and Deluca Invitational this week. They are restructuring their PGA product. They have not released any details on what that contains, but we will have to stay tuned. I'm guessing they're switching up their rounds 1 and 2, 3 and 4 format. They did not receive the best feedback for that, so we'll have to stay tuned with that. But for the moment, this week, we are going to be breaking down DraftKings and Fantasy Draft and taking a deeper look at the Fantasy Draft product. Brandon and I have really been impressed with it. We've been really successful on that site as well. It's got very tight pricing, so it really makes you look at differences in salary, and you don't have to deal with the complete mispricing of DraftKings and feeling like you have to take a guy that's priced at $7,000 just because everyone's going to be on them and you can't miss the boat with them. So before we get to Fantasy Draft, let's look at DraftKings pricing. Here, first we have Tony Finau. He had a really rough start to the Byron Nelson on Thursday. He shot 5 over, but came back surging the next 3 days. He shot 11 under Friday, Saturday, Sunday combined. And if he didn't have that hiccup on Thursday, he would have been up there in contention with Jason Day and Billy Horschel, James Hahn, leading into Sunday afternoon, but just had a rough start. But he has finished 19th and 34th here at Colonial. He's played well in Texas this year. He finished 3rd at Valero, and he ranks 7th in par 4 scoring on the season, 4th in strokes gained tee to green, and 17th in strokes gained approach. So I think Tony Finau's game is right where it has to be. He's priced up at $8,700 this week. So I think that his ownership won't be through the roof by any means at that price. Next, we have Kyle Stanley. His par 4 scoring, he ranks 13th on tour, 5th in strokes gained tee to green, 6th in strokes gained approach. Next, we have Lucas Glover. He is not finished inside the top 40 here at Colonial, but something to keep in mind, he's having an incredible season this year. His par 4 scoring, he ranks 2nd on tour, 11th in strokes gained tee to green, and 26th in strokes gained approach. So with his form this year, I'm not worried about him not finishing better than 40th at Colonial. He's a good ball striker. His putter is where he has some trouble, but I think he's a great play at this course, and there's no reason not to play him at 7,500. Next, we have Kevin Tway. This is a guy who's been playing really well recently the last couple weeks. At Byron Nelson, he gained 1.29 strokes tee to green, and that would rank top 15 this year on the PGA Tour. And he also had 0.44 strokes gained approach last week at the Byron Nelson as well. You can see his par 4 scoring. It ranks 91st. That's over the entire season. It's been much better recently. And he has not played this event. So I think this is another guy. His ownership will be low. He's been playing really well. And I like him at 7,100. Next, Adam Hadwin. He has 2 appearances here at Colonial. He has finished 5th and 22nd. He ranks 27th in strokes gained tee to green, 18th in strokes gained approach. And he had a rough outing at Valero in his final round, shooting over 80, but he bounced back. He made the cut at TPC Players, which was that course was really tough the way it was set up. So I think Hadwin's performance at TPC really makes it feel better after he shot that 82 at Valero. And last, we have Bud Cauley. This guy we've been on the last couple weeks, and I'm not jumping off the train. He's at 9,500 this week. His par 4 scoring, he ranks 52nd. Last week at the Byron Nelson, he was gaining 1.72 strokes gained tee to green and 1.81 strokes gained in approach, which is incredible. I think his form is awesome. He matches up really well with this course. He's a ball striker, and I really like Bud this week, and I think at 9,500, some people might be hesitant to pay for him. And now we have Fantasy Draft. For those of you who have not played on Fantasy Draft, they have a very unique layout with their contests where your top 6 of your 7 golfers you pick count towards your final score. So your worst golfer, you get to throw them out. And I really like this layout. And what Brandon and I have been doing week to week is going with a balanced approach. So we aren't going up to the DJs, the Roms, even Jason Day. We're sticking around the $16,000 range and picking guys there, so we don't have to dumpster dive too much. And you could take a few flyers since your lowest scoring golfer doesn't count. But for those of you who have not checked out Fantasy Draft, we have a link below in the YouTube description with a link to sign up through Daily Fantasy Press. So if you're interested, do that. We also do a weekly listener league. We'll be breaking down the winner in just a bit. But getting back to it, Nick Taylor at 14,200. His stats from last weekend, he gained 1.34 strokes tee to green at Byron Nelson and 1.1 strokes approach. And over his last 5 events, he has been averaging 3.95 strokes in par 4 scoring. If you take that over the PGA Tour season leader, that is right there with Justin Thomas on the year. So Nick Taylor's been really impressive this year. Last week, he was just averaging, every stat category was way ahead of the field. So he has two appearances here at Colonial. He has finished 47th and 27th. So he's got some course history here, and at 14,200, I think it's a great price to get Nick Taylor this week. Next, we have Mark Leishman, priced at 16,000. He has made 6 straight cuts at Colonial. He had a really solid finish last week at the Byron Nelson. He ranks 40th in par 4 scoring this year, 23rd in strokes gained tee to green, and 69th in strokes gained approach. I think he's in great form, aligns really well with this course, and he's obviously had really good experience here. So I like Mark Leishman. And next we have Jason Duffner. He has 3 top 5 finishes at Colonial and 6 of 7 cuts made here. He's a par 4 scoring machine, ranks 3rd on tour in that category, ranks 38th in strokes gained tee to green, and 51st in strokes gained approach. So I think Duffner, great play at 16,700 with a good chance to win this tournament. Next we have Ryan Palmer. He has 3 top 5 finishes, ranks 10th in strokes gained tee to green, 13th in strokes gained approach. He missed a cut at the Players, which I'm not too worried about because a lot of great players miss that cut. And he finished 6th at Texas Open and 11th at the RBC Heritage. So Palmer's having a great season. He's got good history here at 16,200. I think he is a great play. Next, Charlie Hoffman, priced at 15,200. He has 3 top 20 finishes here. He's known to play well in Texas. So I think you can go right back to him this week. Ranks 52nd in par 4 scoring, 42nd in strokes gained tee to green, and last week he averaged .153 strokes gained approach, which was well ahead of his season average. So always good to see these numbers trending in the right direction. And lastly, we have Kyle Reifers. He finished T20 right there with Tway at the Byron Nelson. He has 2 top 15 finishes here at Colonial. He gained 1.32 strokes tee to green and 0.42 strokes gained approach last week at the Byron Nelson. And like I said, he's got 2 top 15 finishes and has also made 3 of 4 cuts. So Reifers, he's comfortable here. I think he's a great play at 13,800. Now, let's take a look at the winner of the Listener League. Big congrats to our loyal listener, Miles, also known as Rogue Gremlin. His lineup was anchored around Nick Taylor, who put up 131 points, just behind Byung-Young An with 137. He just had really solid core. And like Brandon and I have been talking about, he took the balanced approach and didn't take one golfer over 16,000. And like we've said, that's a strategy we like. He had posted and missed a cut. Everyone else made it through. JJ Spawn, really disappointing that he wasn't able to make some birdies like he typically does. Finish at 13 over par. But overall, really, really solid lineup there. So congrats, Miles. For anyone that is interested in a listener league this week, we have a link below in our YouTube description of this video, and we will also tweet it out later this week. So stay tuned for that. If you guys are not following us on Twitter, we are at Daily Fantasy Press, our YouTube channel. If you guys could subscribe, like the video, leave any comments with anything you would like to see. If you have any questions, feel free to message us. And Brandon will be releasing the article tomorrow on Tuesday. So be sure, because he is going to be updating his article with a lot of ball strikers with the wind conditions where they're at currently. You're going to want to load up on ball strikers this week. So, and if weather changes, we will be updating accordingly. But for now, thank you guys for listening again. I wish you guys the best of luck this weekend. And until next, hope you guys enjoy.